Oh, you damn right. Let's get a little house divided going on a Thursday. I'm Chad Hastings. Jeff Ketchum taking care of some family business today. We wish him well, and anybody that's traveling in this super cold Texas weather right now. Hope everything is cool with Ketch. He'll be back tomorrow, we would hope. Normally, you see this other guy on Football with Friends. Today, you're going to see him on House Divided, and his name is Cody Carpentier. Let me see if I can get it right. You got to go that way to get it done. Little Cody Carpentier. Thank you for jumping in, sir. How are you?
Most definitely, Chad. I appreciate it. It's been a long time, been a little while. I'm excited to talk a little Longhorn, talk a little spring ball, talk a little running back coach, talk a little recruiting, maybe do some buy or sell. I'm all ears, all things Longhorns, all things Chad today.
There it is. There it is. A lot of Chads, right? We will be discussing some Chads. The most powerful name in the universe is coming to the Texas Longhorn coaching staff. And that's where we thought we would start today. But then we had one other note we wanted to throw out, and I even made a crawl for you guys. It is official. No spring game for Texas. Anwar Richardson of orangebloods.com has been prepping y'all for this since, I think, January. And Sark really has been prepping y'all for this since the end of the season with the length of everything. He talked about, hey, y'all want to know what suffers in all this? I'll tell you, spring ball. Spring ball is going to change. And he sort of predicted it. You had the Matt Rule comments, and now we get here, Cody, and it's official. Sark does a YouTube show earlier today and was flat out asked, and it is now official. Texas will not have a spring game. Maybe there's an announcement coming about the full schedule, and maybe there's an open practice, for the fans, but no spring game as people would remember them.
That's definitely obviously what was reported like a month ago from Anwar and others in the Longhorn space. But I think kind of as we were talking before we came on, like that, my thought seeing and listening to that show this morning with Kay Adams and Sark going on there, I think Charles Amena, who was on there, was more of like realizing how deep we all are into the Longhorn space. I mean, people are sitting here listening to a Longhorn show every weekday at 1 p.m., noon Eastern, whatever, noon Central, whatever time it is. And you're here for that reason. And there's a lot of other people out there that don't consume Longhorns content on the daily basis that don't have really probably an idea that this was even a topic or a thought, maybe other than maybe seeing a clip, maybe roll on TikTok of Matt Rule saying, I don't want my players to get poached, so I might not have a spring game. But they don't really know what that means. And then you see a guy like Sark, who, to my knowledge, and I listen to a lot of national media, is the first head coach to officially go on a large show, podcast, whatever you want to call it, and officially say, no, we're not having a spring game. Like officially say it. So I think that that's probably why it catches a little more wave today and is going to be a bigger chunk in the media. I think you're probably going to see an influx of coaches come out and kind of verify that they're going to do the same thing. We heard reports over the course of the last couple of weeks. If you listen to Josh Pate's college football show, he said, I've talked to coaches that have told me behind the scenes they're not going to do it, but they haven't said anything out loud. I think you look at the seat that Sark sits in, it is Texas. And I know maybe people are used to like Georgia and Bama being the face of the sport. Texas is obviously one of the faces of the sport and one of the biggest brands in the sport. And for the head coach at Texas to come out and say it first, you can see a lot of people falling in line behind it.
Yeah, and so I started checking around online, Cody, to see what I could find about other schools, other big-time programs, because in the discussion, I've always said if I was Texas, I'd be paying attention to what are the other big dogs doing. So I peeked in today. The messaging is out there that now Texas and USC, I don't believe are going to have a spring game. Now, Ohio State, I saw in a story, someone said Ohio State's not going to have it. But I think they're going to have just an adjusted version. They're calling it a spring showcase. Ryan Day, I think in the last couple of days, has said they're not going to have a spring game, but they're going to have a spring showcase. And they're trying to figure out what the details of that are. And now that Matt Rule said what he said, I think there's also reporting that Nebraska is not going to have theirs. I wouldn't consider Nebraska a big dog right now, obviously. But in terms of the other big dogs, on April 12th, if I'm reading correctly today, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, whatever they're going to do, and Oklahoma will all have a spring game of sorts, a spring something on April the 12th. as of today, I can't find that A&M is either doing something or not doing something. But to your point, Cody, we've asked this question for the last few weeks. If Texas were to make an announcement, will everybody else follow? Or would everybody else strategically try to sort of wave at everybody, knowing that Texas isn't getting the attention that day? Would you then jump into that space somehow and start waving your arms as hard as you can? Hey, we're here. We're here, because you're not having to fight that, Texas and Arch Manning distraction.
I think that's 100%. 100%. I think that more people are going to fall in line with it. The Arch thing always brought in a question of, would they really do it? Would they really pull themselves off of ESPN for having that spring game? The showcase aspect, I will say, I actually have a little experience in the showcase aspect of football, in that this came all the way back in high school, but I played an All-American game in high school that was a showcase, and it wasn't a game in that it was laid out like a practice. Like, we practiced all week, and then when that game came on Saturday, it was technically called a showcase because it was scripted. So it was like 20 plays of offense, 20 plays of defense, 10 plays of special teams, and then we went back 10 plays of defense, 10 plays of offense, and it was scripted in that way where it was pretty much a practice, and we knew not to blast the quarterback, and we knew we were playing against our own. It's the same way as a practice is laid out, but it's more of a script, right? So you get that showcase feel of, they got a red jersey on, I got a scarlet jersey on, whatever the colors are at Ohio State and whatever. If you're at Texas, you got a burnt orange, you got a white on, whatever it is. And you still get the game feel. Fans can still come out and watch. I took the little bit from that when Kay Adams asked him about that, and she said, "Can I come for the spring game in April?" And he goes, "How about we have you for practice?"
Right.
Is she going to come for just a normal practice, or is she going to come for the practice?
Yeah.
Right. Like,
it could be, and it could be both. Like somebody like that, a national media member, they're going to figure out a way to get them to maybe a practice if they come to town.
But
then the question is, do you just have one where you just open it up, do whatever you want, practice, scrimmage, stretching, just open it. Let the fans walk in. I think that's, probably good. By the way, we got South End Zone Queen jumping in with a couple good chats here. Sark's interview with Kay Adams on Up and Adams was excellent. Go check it out. He looks great, sounds amped and rested. Also, South End Zone Queen says, I thought Sark's reasoning was explained very well and very different from Matt Toole. I don't think that was a mistake typing on South End Zone Queen's part. Barb's10 also throws in for $4.99. Thank you for the first super chat. Matt Rule can eat a bag. You'll get hurt when you get hurt. If you're scared of being poached, run a better program. To be very clear, thank you, Barb's10, for throwing that in. Not just because you took a shot at Rule. That's not what I'm saying here. But I think it is clear to mention to anybody that might want to dig into this thing. Cody, Sark is explaining this with the scheduling of college football and the changes of college football. This is not Sark saying, I'm scared somebody's going to poach my players. That never came out of his mouth. This is about the difference that they saw in the season. And he has said this for months. He thought spring ball might start to feel like OTAs, maybe in the NFL. He's just trying to figure out a way to have the best, freshest football team. And this is part of how he's doing it.
And I think that that's probably exactly the direction they're going to go. You've heard him bring up the OTA thing a bunch. And if you go look at like the OTA schedules for the NFL, theirs are laid out differently because they have different thresholds of stuff where like they'll have like first day of camp. They'll have a first day where they'll come in and lift weights. They'll have a rookie mini camp. There'll be like 3 days of just rookies. And then the OTA in the off season, which is like 2 days on, 2 days off, 1 day on, 6 days off, 3 days on, a day off, a day on. Like it's very much scripted in a way to be more of an off-season workout rather than like, hey, we're going to show up and we're going to do 2 weeks of hard, like fall camp type of stuff here. And it's more of like team camaraderie, learning playbook, running around, doing your thing. I don't know from a media perspective if we're going to learn a lot because I think that they're going to be, even if you get access, right? Alex will go down there. I know he will. Onro will be down there. Everyone will be down there consuming what they can consume out of it. But it's like, I feel like the OTAs are only going to make it harder to consume as a media member, learn anything from like hey guys, Nick Brooks is the starting, right tackle. Okay, well, no, he's not. But guess what? He's working in at right tackle because they want to see what he looks like over there, right? Because he's a freshman.
Mhm.
Like from that perspective, I think we may get a little screwed from that. But the OTA perspective, I think it's only going to help the players' legs. He said it. They played 30 games in the last 2 years. I think you've brought it up before the show was A&M. How many games has A&M played? Not 30, right? So maybe a team like A&M who's played 24, 25
Mhm.
and didn't have to play all the way into January or didn't get to play all the way into January, I guess I could say. Um, sorry, didn't
Nice.
get to play all the way into January. Like maybe they're like itching to get back out there and to have a full couple weeks of practice and get that like season in the rearview mirror and things like that. So I definitely think some schools will still stick with the normal plan. And then you'll have some that are just like, all right, we're moving forward. This is done. Let's go to the OTA style.
Yeah, I think overall, a lot of UT fans would echo Jose's thoughts. Spring game or open practice, either way, I'll be in the stands. Jose says, if you give me an opportunity to come watch the team in the spring, I will take advantage. The other thing, Jose and others to consider is the recruiting element of it. You can still have, some have talked about that. Well, you got to have a spring game because you're bringing all the recruits in. It's like, well, you could bring the recruits in anyway. You don't need to bring the recruits in for a spring game. Bring them in for a spring showcase, call it a spring recruiting event, call it, whatever you want. And if you feel like the interaction with your current team is important with those recruits, well, you can do it and not have a spring game. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on. But it's official today that Texas is not having a spring game. If you want to continue to react on that, you can. If you want to send us a super chat, it'll go right to the top. I got one more question for Cody on this. We will also talk about the new running backs coach for Texas if you missed that story. Real quick, as we get rolling here, let's start thanking some of our great partners, and we start with the good folks at Specs. That's right. Almost 400 of you in the Specs chat already. If you're a wine drinker, they got bottles just waiting on you, and they're on sale.
With hundreds of wines on sale, Specs is turning these aisles into the ultimate love story.
Uncork something special during Spec's huge wine sale, going on now. Specs, the fun starts.
Yes, it does. Need a bottle of wine, need a bottle of whiskey, get you warmed up in cold weather. They've got that. Great craft beers. The food at Specs is obviously awesome as well. And, I'm a vodka lover. They have Deep Eddy vodka, including the new flavor of pineapple. So y'all know I tell you, if you're going to get your Deep Eddy vodka, you can get it at Specs. You can also head on out to that Deep Eddy vodka tasting room. But let's be honest, it's cold as hell today where I am. It's like 25 degrees. You might not want to hit your driveway, much less get out to the Deep Eddy vodka tasting room. But just put the idea in your head for when the great spring weather comes back, Thursdays through Sundays, they'll be waiting on you at the Deep Eddy vodka tasting room. Indoor, outdoor seating, the new flavors 9 flavors of Deep Eddy vodka now. And trust me, I got a bottle of the pineapple in my house. It's awesome. I'm trying to make it last a while, but it's incredible. So get on out to that Deep Eddy vodka tasting room when you get a chance, or of course, hit your local Specs and grab a little Deep Eddy vodka. All right, before we leave the discussion, and again, if you guys want to chat or super chat about the spring game, we would love to hear from you because this ultimately, y'all know how it affects me. I'm the big nerdy fan that I want something. I just want something in the spring where we get to see Arch Manning throw footballs. But you guys react however you need to on this story. My question for you, Cody, is from my people, for the other side of House Divided. If you hear this news today in College Station, and you know how Aggies think, Cody, the whole world is about what is Texas doing? What do we do in contrast to what Texas is doing? And how do we pretend like we really don't care? I have not seen a report that the Aggies have a spring game scheduled, as we mentioned. But what would you do if you were Mike Elko? Would you use this information and react to this by saying, if Texas ain't doing it, we're not doing it? Or would you think, man, we got to find a spot where I can show off my football team if I know Texas is not going to do it?
I think you have to do it. You have to do it if you're Texas A&M. You have to do it because multiple things here. 1, you got beat by Texas. 2, Texas just had the number 1 recruiting class. You're currently sitting number 2 in the 2026 class. You probably got a bunch of recruits that you could get to come in and get that semi Kyle Field feel, whatever that feels like, I guess you could say. I don't know how many people show up for that thing up in that stadium, but you probably get a semi feel in there from these recruits. You're not following what Texas is doing. You're doing the opposite. You're paving your own path, continuing to do that. I think all those things kind of go together in just trying to get a leg up on Texas, recruiting as a team, and doing the opposite. I don't know if there's any monetary benefit from it. Like if Texas doesn't have a game, hypothetically, they could charge $10 like Nebraska does. I don't know if A&M will do or not. Like, I don't think there's anything from that perspective to look at. I think it's more of like the recruiting thing, like you talked about earlier, getting that upper hand on Texas and doing the opposite of what they're doing. And you also probably get the TV slot.
Yeah,
like
I was going to say the other bottom line I would give Mike Elko if he's thinking about it, just don't do April 12th.
Yeah.
I just told you, Bama, Georgia, Ohio State's doing something, and Oklahoma. And those are the ones I saw. There's probably others that are doing it. I would not mess with that day. And I think Oregon is like 2 weeks after. Maybe you go the 19th. Maybe it's April 19th. But we will see what happens there, because that question popped in my head the whole discussion of if Texas is going to do something, what would the rivals do? Oklahoma apparently has already made their choice. They're like, I don't know. We're not worried about what Texas is doing. We are going to have a spring event and a spring game.
Well, they need it
on April 12th.
Well, they need the practices, to be fair. But what as an Aggie, what's kind of your POV for that? Like, would you, or are you looking forward to practices? Are you looking forward to that team getting back out there and kind of closing the chapter of the last 6 months? Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm Cody. I'm a sucker.
Recruiting.
I'm a sucker for the picture. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I do a show every day with all this crap behind me. I love helmets and uniforms, and just anytime you get to see your team in your gear. I love one of my favorite things about spring games is when I see like a mom bringing her son to a spring game, a dad bringing a daughter, dad brings the kids, and I see little kids go to a spring game and get that feeling. I wish I'd had them when I was little. Maybe they were doing them and I just never went to them. But I would have absolutely done that in April. If my dad said, hey, we're going to go to Kyle Field, the Aggies are practicing. It's like, sure, let's go. So I would always be in favor of it. But also in this case, I think there's an argument for it. Like, you need to, I always say, Aggies spend too much time bitching about the shadow and they don't enjoy the shade enough. And what you need to understand your positioning and what Texas just did and what they may be about to do. And the show they've got. They've got Arch Manning. You don't. Nobody else does. So if they're telling you we are not going to have one of those events that a TV network is going to put on, my next thought is, okay, we got to find a TV slot and let's show ourselves off in some way. I would be thinking that if I was everybody else. I would do what Georgia's doing. I would do what Bama's doing. And because they would tell us, Cody, that they're not paying attention to Texas. But I think they're lying too. I do. I think right now, this particular season especially, everybody's going to be paying attention to the attention that Texas is getting. If Texas is willing to duck out for not just a day, for like this period of time in practice, man, I think the chance to, it's like a whack-a-mole, right? The chance to stick your head up out of the hole and say hello, I would take it, whether I'm Oregon, Oklahoma, Georgia, or in the case of what we're talking about, A&M. I would absolutely do something.
Lots of opportunity to get TV time, to get those big-name recruits on campus, whilst Texas is just sitting at home. Like, that's
Yeah. And to this question, Rex asked me, Chad, do you ever go to the A&M spring game? When it works out, Rex, I do. There have been times where like there was a family thing going on and I couldn't go. I remember there was one year where both teams, Longhorns and Aggies, both had a spring game, but we had something going on in the family that I couldn't go to either. So I had to watch both of them on TV and all that stuff. So when it works out, I've done it. And to Cody's point about I've actually paid to see the Aggie spring game. How sad is that?
How much?
Oh, I think it was $8.
$8? That's not bad. I was
8 or 12, like 8 or 12, somewhere in that range. Like, it wasn't more than $15. It was.
Was this recent? Was this a decade ago? When was this?
That was Sumlin. I think the Sumlin era. Okay. Somewhere in the and I think it may have been, Cody, after the renovations to the stadium had begun. I think it was right as they came back from, hey, we built all this stuff. If you guys don't mind, we'd like a little ticket price.
There it is.
So yes, we were able to give him a little bit. All right. If you guys want to comment on that, you certainly can. Cody, let's talk about this new running backs coach. This thing developed pretty quickly once the list kind of got out there. In fact, it was literally in the last day or so, Anwar threw out a list of 3 names for people to kind of consider. And then just an hour or so later, 3 hours later, something like that, then there was reports of, oh, wait a minute, this guy is reportedly saying no. This guy reportedly has told, Sark no. It looks like the West Virginia guy. And now the reports are out, and Anwar's been able to confirm it. Orange Bloods has confirmed it, that Texas is going to go with Chad Scott of West Virginia. He's been their running backs coach since 2019. Cody, give me your immediate reaction here for Texas and what you may have been able to check out with Chad Scott.
I think everything I've read from Chad Scott, I think Jason had a good write-up over on Orange Bloods. You can go check it out. Glowing reviews from everybody kind of in his circle, players. He was the de facto or assistant fill-in head coach during their bowl game this past year, and I guess the whole team loved that. From a recruiting standpoint, actually one of the final 3 names in Anwar's list was one of the guys I kind of found last week just digging, the Georgia Tech guy, Norvell McKenzie. It was he has the Georgia connection, Powder Springs, Georgia. Texas has made a point to go to Georgia. Former Vanderbilt running back coach. They don't go that direction. They go Chad Scott, who, if you look at his historical recruiting, it's pretty solid, pretty strong. He's got ties, obviously, to Florida, where he's from, Plant City, Florida. Obviously played at Kentucky, North Carolina. I don't know if that's obvious or not, but I just said obviously. Coached at North Carolina, West Virginia, Kentucky the last decade. He was at Texas Tech for a small stint, but he does have some recruits on here from the running back perspective. He got a running back out of Pflugerville, was that a couple years ago. He's got running backs out of Ohio, Missouri City, Texas, Edwardsville, Illinois. He's pretty good. South Carolina, New Jersey. He kind of pretty good lay of the land, I'd say, from a recruiting perspective. 43 years old. I think it's a pretty good hire. I think as far as Jason's write-up goes, Jason's got some more notes in there. I would just say go over there and check that out on Orange Bloods. He compared it to kind of Choice. He compared it to the high energy Choice, a people person Choice, a recruiter's friend. I think it's a good hire.
I'll give you a couple of those notes right now. I made a little graphic up, and then we will direct you to Jason's stuff. But here's a little bit from what Jason put on Orange Bloods, and says he's an extremely energetic guy. He brings his own energy, one West Virginia source says. People gravitate towards him. He has really close connections to his room and the team in general. And then another comment later on in those notes. Quote, a lot of what I hear about him as a recruiter is the genuine connections he makes with people and how he develops his players beyond just football. Again, that's from a West Virginia source. Jason's reporting today on orangebloods.com. So as we always do, we would advise you to get on over to orangebloods.com for all kinds of stuff, all kinds of great content. Jason's 321 article was already out, but now his reaction to the Chad Scott hire. I know Cody's got some stuff up on orangebloods.com this week as well, recruiting stuff. Maybe a house divided battle discussion with a big recruit. I saw that note in there. That always gets my attention. Orangebloods.com. Check it out. One of the things I looked up, Cody, was kind of some of the numbers, just sort of rough numbers with West Virginia and Texas. Letty Brown is one of the first guys I thought of. Donaldson was there last year. I mean, there's been some, pretty good running attack. Anwar points out by one metric, they were number 9 in rushing at one point last year, late in the season. In terms of rushing yards per game, and I think this is through maybe into the quarterfinals, so maybe a little unfair to compare a team that's playing into the playoffs and maybe a team that didn't go, deep into the playoffs. But West Virginia was at 27 in the country in rushing yards per game, 194 a game. Texas was at 71 in the country at 159 a game. So West Virginia's numbers a little better there. The last 2 years, Texas, the yards per carry is less overall than West Virginia, and the rushing touchdown number is less than what West Virginia had. Last 2 years for Texas, 5 yards a carry and 4.3. That's a big part that's got to change. We'll get into that too. Touchdowns 29 to 26. But for West Virginia, it was 5.3 a carry in 2023, 32 touchdowns on the ground. And then it did slip 4.8, though, and 27 touchdowns. So, Cody, when I look at it, I mean, there's a lot of different boxes you want to check. And the recruiting stuff is great. You got to have that. But I also think there's an argument for, productivity here. And you mentioned the fact that he was interim head coach for the bowl game. I think that's important. The fact that the players flipped out with excitement when they found out about it is big. Jason pointed that out in his notes. And this is a guy that's for 23 and 24 was OC, was calling plays. So this isn't just your normal running backs coach. He's about Tashard Choice's age. I think maybe a shade older, like 42, 43, somewhere in there. But yeah, I think it checks a lot of those boxes and might give a Texas fan the belief that this run game, the run game itself, can get back to where it was, when Bijan and Roschon were in the house.
I'll be interested to see what it looks like for sure. I think you look at the guys he had last year, Jaheim White, who obviously had glowing reviews over on the column that Jason had up. He tweeted out Jaheim White, who's a running back from West Virginia, like 195-pound, 190-pound running back, 3-star kid. Also, CJ Donaldson, who's at West Virginia the last 2 years. Both of these guys had north of 750, 800 yards each of the last 2 seasons. Each of these guys did that. And Donaldson is now going to Ohio State. And I don't think Ohio State takes Donaldson if Donaldson's not good. And he's an ex-tight end. He was a recruit at like 6'2", 210. He's now 230, 235 pounds. Like, this is a really good running back. Jaheim White's a really good running back. I'll be interested to see what the kind of 1-2 punch looks like, because I'll just put it this way. If you're at West Virginia, they do have an offensive lineman in this year's draft class, Wyatt Milam, who's going to be a mid-second round type of a guy. He's not elite, and they don't have 4 of them like Texas does. If this guy can come in and bring 3 stars along like he did Donaldson from tight end to running back, and Jaheim White, who's a undersized running back, bring guys along like that, progress them as running backs, you could foresee an opportunity. And last year, Garrett Green, their quarterback, had 700 yards on the ground too. Like, we're talking about Sark always having a 1,000-yard rusher. Seems to me like the last couple of years of West Virginia, they've had 2 good rushers coming out of that backfield, plus a rushing quarterback. Maybe you have 2,000-yard rushers next year. I mean, you do got Trey Wiseman, who just did it. Sark loves Baxter. Who knows what you're going to get out of Gibson next year? I don't know. I think that the sky is the sky's the limit. The ceiling is the roof, whatever you want to call it.
The old Michael Jordan, the ceiling is the floor.
I like it. I think I'll be interested to see what he does, because obviously the recruits are going to be a little more high end than you'd get out there in Mountaineer country. So I'll be interested to see what he does with the current guys. And then by the end of the year, kind of like with Kenny Baker, I remember a year ago being at the Senior Bowl, and Texas had hired Kenny Baker that week, and Baker was supposed to be at the Senior Bowl coaching, and he wasn't, or he'd left early or something. And the thought was like, well, damn, he's going to be way behind the 8 ball as far as recruiting in this class. And I remember people writing him off on Orange Bloods and blah, 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 blah. And by the end of it, what did he do? He ended up getting to Justice Terry, signed in a pretty good, I'm not going to give him all the credit for the whole defensive line group, but ends up with a pretty good defensive line group at in the 2025 class. I'll be interested to see by the end of the cycle what Chad Scott does with the Javion Osborns of the world, the KJ Edwards of the world, and anybody else in this class.
A couple other numbers that jumped out, and I think Jason threw this out in his reporting, but how about this, Longhorn fans? Jaheim White, his first 2 years at West Virginia, 6.54 a carry and over 1,600 yards. That sounds pretty good. Also, how about this, Cody? Texas as a team, 4.3 a carry this past season. West Virginia had 3 guys, including the quarterback, that were above that number. Donaldson was at 4.5. Green is at 5.6. And Jaheim this past season was at 5.7 on the carries. And, you can remember, it feels like covering the Big 12 was eons ago at this point. I remember covering the Big 12, Cody, years ago. But West Virginia was always one of those teams, depending on, whether it was, Rich Rod or it was Brown or whoever was there. I always liked those teams when they could give you that spread formation, but run right at you. Just have that attitude, have that little bit of nastiness to them. So I'd be excited about this if I'm a Texas fan. Seems like the productivity has been there. Now it'll just be a matter, Cody, of does he adjust to, because some of his big victories at West Virginia, what is like, hey, there was this 3-star guy. We're trying to decide between a couple 3 stars. Who do you like? And he picks one. Man, I really see something out of this kid. Okay. And he develops. That's a great story. Texas may never look at that guy.
No.
Like ever. Right?
Yep.
Like, could he really convince the Texas staff? Be like, no, man, I love this kid. You love that kid? Okay, that's fine. But we got 2 4 stars and 2 5 stars for you to look at, and we can get all 4 of them. You're talking about the 5th or 6th guy down the list. So maybe you have a little bit of that, but the other, positive side of it would be if he can develop a 3-star.
Yeah.
Just wait till you see what he can do with a 4 and a 5-star.
That's the thing we'll learn that we haven't learned yet, obviously. I mean, he signed a couple of 4-star running backs, at least according to, he had DeAndre Washington, I guess, as one of his recruits who's a 4-star to Missouri City and went to Texas Tech, but he was only at Texas Tech for a year. Washington obviously ended up making it to the NFL, played for the Raiders for a couple of years, got a cup of coffee there. But yeah, I think the 5-star thing would be just a different level. We'll see what he comes in and does with the Baxters of the world and James Simon if he gets, get going. And then if they get Osborne and or KJ Edwards, that'll be the true test. Well, also how long Chad Scott stays on the staff. If he stays for 3 years or so, that would really be the tell.
It really is a test of relationship skills right away. We've seen this in many different situations. One of the big credits everybody always gives Mac Brown is he was able to keep Ricky Williams and use that relationship skill thing right at the beginning. And when a coach takes over like this, it's huge. And you just brought up the names. I mean, we've been talking about them. Jason and I have been talking about those guys on the recruiting hour. Jason saw one of them, Edwards, I believe it was, that was at this last camp. KJ Edwards, Javon Osborne, and both of them reacted to this story about Tashard Choice leaving without freaking out. Yep. Neither of them lost their minds. Yep. Both of them just kind of said, hey, yeah, we'll have to see. In fact, one of them said that Tashard Choice told them he wanted to go to the NFL, which was really surprising to me that he was that forthcoming, with the kid.
There's 2 different, there's really 2 different points of view you can take as a prospect. And then I think we saw them both in Xavier Crowell, who's the number 1 back out of Bama, and Summer Services Evans, number 1 recruit in the country, and who immediately just like, nope. And then there's guys like Osborne and Edwards who are like, no, we'll wait and see what happens. And you bring up the NFL thing. Like I talked to a couple offensive linemen in this next recruiting class 2026 that when they're looking at other schools, there's other schools that their offensive line coaches went to the NFL and they're like, I'm just going to wait and see. Like, I can't knock a guy for going to the NFL and fulfilling a dream. Like, it's just part of the process. Like, I want to go to the NFL too. So some guys get it. Some guys don't. Some guys are looking for themselves. Some guys are looking for, the team and for the coach. And it's all depending on what you're looking at. So these kids are 16, 17 years old. And you go through the recruiting process.
It's hard to know. It's hard to know what a 45-year-old is going to do sometime, much less a 17-year-old. Michael had a good chat earlier about this issue. Says it sounds crazy to verbalize it, but I actually do think Scott might be an upgrade over Choice. I'm with Ketch. We tended to overrate Choice. He's really good, but he never brought in elite talent. Michael, it is an interesting point, and the productivity you saw. This last year, you got to talk about injuries. You cannot talk about Texas and running backs in 2024 unless you want to talk injuries. You also talk about moments you didn't like in terms of fumbles, and there was a little bit of that. But, the injuries played into it. But I think you're bringing up a good point. And, just the effect that he'll have on these guys that are coming back. And we still can't talk about Baxter or Gibson, Cody, without talking about injuries because they're both coming off of one. But once they or I guess it's Clark that's coming off the injury. Sorry, my bad. Clark's coming off the injury. I'm really interested to see what the reaction with Gibson, what that response and what we see from Gibson in year 2 is going to be. That's an interesting one for me. There were a couple times this year where I thought, hey, now kid puts his foot in the ground and that's fun to watch. It's powerful. It's fast. It just it needs time. If he develops that kind of talent, that's obviously going to be a feather in his cap too.
I'd be super interested to see. I mean, Gibson last year, I think I just for some reason innately thought he was bigger than he was. But even the way he runs, he I think he just the way he's built, the way his weight is dispersed, he runs like he's 220 pounds.
Yep.
He's listed at 205 this past year. I'll be interested to see what he shows up at as far as the scale goes this spring when the new 2025 roster drops. If he's like a 218, I'd be very interested to see that because that would kind of follow the trend of like, not to do that, but like the CJ Donaldson thing in West Virginia, like he was 210, 6'2", 210. And by year 3 with Chad Scott, he's up to 238. And then all of a sudden he's in the portal going to Ohio State, like progressing as a good big back. And then you have the other speed piece with Jaheim White. Like Gibson has to find his role. Wisner's obviously going to have a role. Baxter, if he's back and healthy, is going to have a role. Gibson's got to find it. Is he going to be the goal line back? Is he going to put big weight on? Or is he just going to be stuck in the stall all year?
Some good chats are coming in on this, and our guy Tex guy was pointing out the fact that he's been at West Virginia for a while, at the school before for 4 years, not prone to job hopping. This is some people have wondered, like it's the glass half full, glass half empty, however you want to look at it. Is it positive that he stays for a while because he's just a guy that'll stick around because you want him to stick around as a Texas fan? Or is it bad that he stuck around because he was at West Virginia all that time and it meant nobody else wanted him? Because then Brandon threw that idea in, well, means other teams aren't that interested. But I do think the fact Tex guy points it out, we've talked about it, Cody mentioned it earlier, the fact that he was the interim head coach for the bowl game. And from what we're hearing, Cody, that was the automatic response.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was automatic. They knew that's who it was going to be. The other thing you can always tell, I think, Cody, is how do fans react when you lose somebody? Through the years, I could tell you stories about the ones you know are big time and the ones where the fan base tells you, oh, yeah, wait. Because, like, I'll give you 2 examples. And it's from an Aggie fan perspective of getting a guy and losing it, it's getting a guy both times. When A&M was getting John Chavis, the defensive coordinator, I'll never forget. I had a Tennessee fan just walk up to me and all he said was, get ready for 3rd and Chavis, and walks away. And I thought, I don't think he meant that as a positive thing. And eventually I kind of knew what he meant. The other one was I used to work with a Florida State fan. And as soon as the Jimbo thing happened, she came to me and she said, there's going to be some good, but eventually you're going to find out what we found out. And then she walked away. And she was right. So it's those kind of reactions sometimes. But this one is the other side. The West Virginia reaction that I'm reading so far, Cody, is, oh, damn. Dude was good. Players loved him. Good recruiter. Developed our run game. Look how we ran the ball. The Mountaineer folks, I think, they're a little upset today. They would have loved to have kept him.
Did my question, the only thing I got to mind that got stuck in my mind right there was, did anybody come up to you from Duke and tell you anything about Elko?
No.
Nobody said anything.
No, I never did. Never did.
You'll find out.
Nope. I have not. There's nothing to find out yet. I never had a Duke fan come up to me and say anything. I think whatever I've had to learn from Elko, I've just learned it just from this the first run. So yeah, I think that's a good indicator sometimes. What does a fan base think? And it's just like, what would a Texas fan have told an LSU fan in a restaurant about Bo Davis? I think they would have been pretty honest about a lot. There's some of it that maybe wasn't perfect, but deep down, if the LSU fan had said, yeah, but do you want to keep him? The Texas fan nods immediately. Just like Tashard Choice. If a Detroit Lion fan meets a Longhorn fan, hey, what are we getting, man? You're going to like him. You're going to like him. He was good. And I know it's going to the next level, but I would think it's a glowing, review. And that's what West Virginia fans are doing. So Longhorn fans, congratulations if that's the way you feel, or we'll just see if that's the way you feel. But Chad Scott is your new running backs coach, and we will see what this Texas run game looks like. All right. If y'all want to jump in with super chats, feel free. We also mentioned that the spring game is officially not happening. Is it spring something? We'll have to wait on that. But no spring game for Texas. That was made official. We did talk about that a little bit today as well. Let me thank another one of our great partners, and we are talking about your TV here. We're talking about the screen you're watching games on. Don't let your family and friends be the ones that are making you jealous. You turn it around on them. You bust out a 75-inch TV or maybe multiple screens that will blow their minds. That's what you need to do. Maybe you're a college baseball freak and that season's getting started and you know you don't have the right setup. Get it done as quickly as you can, and then maybe you're good for Omaha. This is the place that can get you set up. 255-8678 or avconsultations.com. They've been doing it since 1988. Let them handle every detail. They'll buy the TV for you. They'll get the speakers. They'll get the cords. They'll make sure everything's hidden. If you got, crazy pets and young kids in the house, you don't want them yanking on cords and putting themselves in danger, obviously, but you don't want them messing stuff up. They'll make sure everything is done cleanly, perfectly, make sure you are satisfied. They've been doing it a while, as I mentioned. 255-8678 or avconsultations.com. You make them jealous instead of being the one who is jealous when it comes to your badass TV setup. All right. And in terms of badass TV setup, there is a little bit of what's going on tonight. Oh, hockey's tonight. Cody, you watching that hockey game? You into the whole thing?
I tell you what, I might turn this one on tonight, only because I want to see some more fighting. I didn't turn the last one on until I saw the fighting, and then I was like, all right, let's turn this thing on. And I'm all for it.
This is the final, though. Do you think in the championship game, you think they're going to still do that? They're throwing gloves and they're going to scrap?
Hell yeah, dude. I mean, maybe it's just me. I mean, I went to school at North Dakota, University of North Dakota. That's a bona fide hockey school. It's not a football school, and they're all for winning championships and stuff. I don't care about hockey. What I care about when I'm watching hockey, Chad, is fighting. Maybe that's just me growing up. Do you know the name Derek Bugard from the Minnesota Wild from like the early 2000s?
Vaguely. I kind of know the name. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Derek Bugard was, I got to get the exact height, no less than 6'7", 265.
Oh, geez.
He passed away super young. I think he was like 27 or 28 or something. But he was like not great in hockey, but he was like the guy that you grew up, you wanted that dude's jersey because every time he hit the ice, this was early 2000s when there was more. I mean, there's fighting occasionally now in the NHL, but that was when it was like fighting on a weekly basis was making, the Sports Center top 10. And Derek Bugard was, again, from Minnesota, didn't play hockey. Grandpa played hockey. Dad played hockey. Don't love hockey, but I love hockey fights. So yeah, I'll watch tonight in hopes to see a fight.
Okay, fair enough. He's watching for the fights, and apparently Matt agrees with you. Hockey for fighting, racing for Rex. Well, okay,
you're not wrong. I don't want to see somebody get hurt, but
no. Sometimes Matt, they do tune into Daytona and Darlington and Talladega for the big one. That makes sense. And Matt asks, what happened to make love to whoever you want part? We'll play the spot for you tomorrow, Matt. We'll just mix it up a little bit. Sometimes I tell you about it. Sometimes you see the spot. We'll get the spot back tomorrow. Don't worry. They're out there. All right. So someone says somebody's mama is getting insulted on the ice tonight. By the way, I didn't know the final was in Boston. I thought they were going to stay up in Canada for this whole thing. I didn't realize they were moving it around. The finals in Boston? Holy smokes.
That seems like a little bit of a home ice advantage.
That's going to be intense. Yeah, ESPN, 7 o'clock. You don't have to look far to find that game. All right, so again, big stories of today's show. No spring game officially for Texas, and then Texas gets the new running backs coach, Chad Scott from West Virginia. And again, if you're jumping in at this point of the show, Catch handling some family business today. Hopefully he's back tomorrow for a Friday show. Speaking of shows, you normally see Cody on Football with Friends. He and Alex bringing you that show. We're talking to you on Thursday here, Thursday the 20th. There will not be a Football with Friends this evening because the fellas are getting some things ready to get to Indianapolis and the Combine. They're going to have a show tomorrow on Friday to kind of wrap up the week and get you ready. And then next week, Tuesday through Friday, because they got to get the traveling done on Monday, Tuesday through Friday, Combine stuff. And it's going to be a lot of fun. If you don't know how the Combine scheduling works, if you really just want to hit the biggest positions, you're looking at a week from Saturday because a week from Saturday is quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. So if all you cared about at the combine was, hey, how does Quinn look throwing the ball? What about Jalen Milroe or whatever? That's going to be next Saturday, but the guys are going to be there covering it all. Cody, I wanted to get some of your thoughts on it. I got a buy or sell for you that'll go kind of down this line too. But as you're getting ready for the combine, I know you guys, enjoy covering this thing. And my God, you got 14 Longhorns to deal with this year?
Yeah.
Do I have that number right?
Yeah.
That is incredible. What's on the top of your mind when it comes to the Texas crew?
Top of my mind when it comes to the Texas group, as far as what I want to see and kind of what I'm expecting, is Quinn obviously to throw. I think he will. We want to see him healthy. We won't know medicals. The combine's obviously like the master reasoning is like medicals and interviews. We won't know medical stuff for like a month and a half post combine. That stuff will start to leak out. I want to see Quinn throw. I'll be interested to see if like Cam Ward and Shedeur throw, who are the two leading quarterbacks from Miami and Colorado. If they don't, that opens the door for guys like Quinn, Jackson Dart, and all this other stuff to kind of grow and kind of earn that QB3, QB2 spot in conversation. Other Texas thoughts, Isaiah Bond, who obviously dealt with ankle injury all year. Real opportunity to run sub 4.3. And if you run sub 4.3, 4.29, 4.28, something like this, I think he vaults himself right back into the first round conversation. My most recent mock that I just sent over to over at Roster Watch to get published, I had him going in the first 5 picks of the second round to the Titans. So I think that if he does run something in that 4.30 area, he's going to be a first round pick. Alfred Collins, official measurements on Collins, official weight on Collins. He's gotten a lot of conversation of late from NFL scouts and stuff. And kind of the inverse for Cam Williams. Those two guys, I guess the last 3 weeks, post Senior Bowl to pre-combine, has felt like ships passing in the night as far as their draft stock. And that's Alfred Collins going up and Cam Williams going down. And I'm going to be interested to just talk to some people at the NFL Combine and kind of get the feel for what those guys are going to do. I don't expect any like outlandish testing from either one of them, but I'll be interested to see kind of what the conversation points are around Collins and Cam Williams, because they definitely feel like they've passed each other, and Collins is likely to get drafted ahead of Cam.
There's a lot of cool stuff that Alex and Cody are able to see and get at the combine. And one of them is kind of what Cody just alluded to, the conversations they have, the questions they'll ask, whether it's about the current Texas team and thoughts there. Now that there's a new running backs coach, I'm sure they'll, they find connections. Oh, wait, this is somebody that maybe has seen, Chad Scott. Hey, here's a West Virginia person that can tell us about Chad Scott. A lot of cool notes will come out of the combine. Cody, our man Chris Bennett had a quick question for you. Back to the quarterbacks. You mentioned it. Does Shedeur throw, or is his ego too big for the combine? I don't know if that would be it, Chris Bennett, but this is the decision for both of those guys, right? They're clearly thought of as the first two. Do you think Shedeur and Cam could just kind of wave off the throwing part, and maybe just do the run the 40 and stuff and measure out and then maybe hit it?
I don't think they're going to run. I definitely don't think they're going to run even. If they do,
so you don't think they do anything? If
they do anything, they're going to throw. Me and Alex have talked about this a little bit, kind of what the expectation is for these quarterbacks, because it's kind of a foregone thought that Cam Ward from Miami is the top quarterback in the class, but some people do have Shedeur ahead of him. And it's weird because, so I tweeted this out this morning because, like I said earlier, but like, there's a lot of media out there. One of the media corners is Deion Sanders Jr., which is Deion Prime, his son. He has his own media company called like Well Off Media. He goes around year round and follows the Colorado team, follows Shedeur, follows Shiloh, Travis, all these guys, right? There's the only real, like, you can follow Instagram accounts and you can watch guys at like Exos in Dallas or Bumaritos in Miami and all these other places train, I guess you'd say, run 40s, but really it's just like little clips of these guys run like 10-yard splits and stuff like this. That account, Well Off Media, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders had the same quarterback coach. They train together. They've trained together for the last like 2 years with the same quarterback coach. So you literally can watch like these 10-minute videos on YouTube of these guys just throwing together, playing together, talking crap, going through their everything, and throwing to UNLV receivers, throwing to Colorado receivers, throwing to Miami receivers, whatever it is. It's a very weird thing that, like, it's new age, obviously, because it's content, right? It's media. I've never seen it before. I don't really know how to understand it. And maybe it doesn't make any sense in that it's just a video of them throwing the football, but they're literally doing like their pro day workout on video,
right,
on like a weekly basis. So I'll be interested because Cam doesn't really need to throw, and he doesn't really have anything to gain if he does throw at the combine. And if he doesn't throw, I would bet money Shador also doesn't throw. And they kind of do it as like a pseudo team, even though they're not a team. They're competing for that number one spot. I would bet that if one doesn't, neither will. And in that, you bring up, they seem like they're the clear-cut top two. A lot of Jackson Dart's team after the Senior Bowl, which I don't think is deserved. I think he had a fine Senior Bowl. But there's people that have conversed about Dart being up in that top 10 conversation. And if both of those guys don't throw at the combine and Dart does, it opens the door up for Dart to enter himself really deep into that QB2 spot where one of those guys goes, you could potentially see, hypothetically, the Titans go defense, they take Abdul Carter, and then the Browns do what they do, take a quarterback, and who knows what happens after that. Dart could potentially be the second quarterback off the board. It wouldn't shock many people. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I don't know if they'll throw. I actually talked to Alex about this yesterday. We're kind of I'm closer to like 40 they do, 60 they don't.
Interesting. Yeah, and after you laid it out there, it does that perfectly logical that whatever one does, the other one will do. It just if they've got the same coaches and being watched by the same folks. Speaking of watching, we'll get back to a combine question here in a second. I just want to thank S. Roan for watching out for us. At the time, 214 watching, only 32 likes. Pathetic. Like the video and subscribe. Thank you, S. Roan, for watching out for us. Y'all, please like the video and subscribe. If you don't like on the way in, make sure you like on the way out. And we do appreciate all the subscribers. It does help us out. Chris Bennett sending us the bad news earlier that Wembanyama's out for the year now. Already was going to be out for the Moody situation tonight, but now out for the whole year. That really does suck for the NBA, the Spurs, and Wembanyama. Hopefully he'll be as good as new very quickly. Also, Cody, I need to check with you on this. Jose says, by the way, Chad, the new official FWF moniker is Little John Turntine. What is this? Is this your new moniker? Is that what it is?
This is Alex. So normally what happens is we'll be talking about something. One of us will say something. The other one will have like a what is this, like an idiom or something like this? But moniker, sure. Little John Turntine. So this came from the idea that Turntine is as listed on Rivals at 6'4", 317. We've known that he's probably not 6'4". He's closer to 6'3", a little shorter than you want, which in turn, usually when your height, that impacts your wingspan, your arm length, things like this. When you're talking about tackle and guard, right? And we're like 317. I go, man, I just watched a video the other day of him powerlifting. He didn't look 317. He looked leaner than 317. Like, and I know from a powerlifting background that there's weight classes, right? So there's 308, there's 275 for weight classes in powerlifting. He's in high school, he's in powerlifting. And it clicked in my mind, you have to weigh in to do a powerlifting meet. Right. And I know because I've done it. And so I go and look it up, John Turntine powerlifting. What do you know? His stuff shows up. He weighed in, not at 317, 268.
268.
Yeah, 268. 2 weeks ago, 268. And as soon as I said it, Alex goes, Little John Turntine. And so I don't know what he is. I mean, we weren't trying to bash the kid at all. It just kind of how it rolled out because it was like, whoa, what? We did not expect it, right? We expected, and the same thing was, they had his weigh-in from a year ago, and his weigh-in from a year ago was 43 pounds heavier. So that would have been, so it was 268. It would have been 311. Is that right? 311, I think it was, whatever the math is there. But he weighed 311 a year ago and then weighed 268 this 2 weeks ago. It was wild just to take in, but that's the Little John Turntine story.
Little John Turntine. All right, there you go. Jose, thank you so much for the chat because I'm glad to get that update. Mike D, I see your super chat on the running backs, coach. We will get to that. Just one more combine one I liked here from Matt. Cody says, who do you think is going to be the biggest standout at the combine? Is there, and I guess that could be anybody. That could be a Texas guy or anyone. Is there like one name, blinking at you going into Indy?
I'll say from a Texas perspective, I already said it, Bond. So that's a lame answer for you, but I think Bond's going to blow the top off and put his name back in first round. As far as the overall combine goes, what I think is it's going to be an edge rusher takeover. Like last year, there was not a defensive end or a defensive player taken until Liatu Latu went. I think it was like 14th or 16th overall to the Colts. It was just offense. This year, it's a historical running back class in totality, but the defense from the interior defensive lineman and the edge, otherworldly depth. And James Pierce, the Tennessee edge rusher, Abdul Carter, the Penn State edge rusher, Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M, we've heard good things about. I think probably those three that I feel best about having like some pretty elite testing days at the combine that could vault themselves. Abdul Carter's obviously already the number one overall conversation, but James Pierce and Shamar Stewart can vault themselves into the top 10 conversation. And I think they will with some big combine days. I think that's next Thursday when they run.
Matt, thank you for that chat. Here's the super chat from Mike D on this running backs coach. Says, I never felt Choice was a good developer. His running backs ran too low to the ground and with no fluidity, thus the fumbles. Scott's running backs run more free. All right. There you go, Mike.
That's interesting. Too low to the ground is an interesting. I mean, I get it. I get what he's saying when I think about like how Wisner runs. I guess a little bit to how Gibson runs. I mean,
so I guess does too low to the ground just get me off balance to where I can't have ball security? Is that the?
I don't think that those two things go together. When you're running up running backs, usually the problem is too much surface area. You're running too up and down. When you think of that, you think of like Le'Veon Bell, right? In the NFL, when Le'Veon Bell would run the football and he'd essentially be like chest out, right?
Yeah.
Like peacocking, like chest out, because he'd be having his hand on the back of the offensive lineman, and he got it because his vision was otherworldly.
That crazy patience of his.
And that crazy patience. And it was like, because he's got so much surface area, he just patient, go. Like that's usually the knock for most guys, because most guys aren't Le'Veon Bell with that patience and the vision and all that stuff. So normally the problem, like Todd Gurley, a lot of surface area. You get hit more. You don't really want that. You want the opposite. You want the guys to run lower to the ground. The fluidity part, I get that. I don't think those three things go together though, as far as the fumbles occurring, but I'm also not Chad Scott or Tashard Choice. So
yeah, interesting take though, Mike. It sounds like Mike's been really watching some running backs. So we will see. Chad Scott, the former West Virginia running backs coach, now the new running backs coach at Texas. Obviously, we've been talking about that today. Matt has an interesting question on the chat. Chad, do we get the insider discount at Hayes City mentioning your name? You know what, Matt? Give it a shot. I mean, I'd say give it a try, right? Hayes City store. You led me right into it. Well done. We hit Hayes City store last weekend, and it was great. Now, again, when the weather's super cold like this, it might not be right on the top of your list. But when the weather gets good again, go on, head out there, see those beautiful trees, see all those great chairs that are waiting on you. This was right at the beginning. Again, my advice to you, we did an 11 o'clock reservation on a Saturday, and that place starts filling up real quick. Just make sure you have a reservation. That would help getting out there. Definitely don't be in a rush. I always say it. When you're heading out to beautiful Driftwood, you want to relax. You want to have a great time. And when the weather's right, you can sit out under those beautiful trees, or you can go in the ice house like we did. And if you can see up in that picture on the upper left, those flaps over there, when you see the sunlight coming in, they got the flaps all around the side. They had heaters going when we were there because it was like 50, 55 probably as we started the meal. And then it got warmer. They're always ready for you there. And when it gets super warm, they've got misters to make sure that you're feeling good as well. So hit them up at FM 150 in Driftwood. I'll start mixing in pictures of the food we had. I went pork chop. My wife went with the pork chop as well. Different kinds. I went blackened. She went grilled. And my kid had the pizza, which she loves. So I'll be showing you some of that. But Hayes City Store, I don't know that there's an official discount, but if you would mention that you heard about it on Orange Bloods Live, I would appreciate it. That would be very cool and could certainly help me out and, keep me talking about Hayes City Store. Travis is a big fan of the Longhorns, so I know he's excited about Chad Scott, the new running backs coach. But check out Hayes City Store when you get a chance and when the weather allows you to do it. Good chats today talking about the new running backs coach, talking about the fact that there is no spring game officially now with Texas. Oh, here's another comment from Mike breaking down running backs. The tightness leads to the fumbles and low ground running limits agility is what I meant. Okay.
That's fair. Those are fair. Those are definitely fair comments. 100%.
Yeah, okay.
Low ground. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. There you go. That's one of those things that you kind of wonder as a football fan when you watch it. When fans watch fumbles, like it's just one of those things that drives you insane. Insane. I don't care what kind of fumbles they are. It could be the greatest play ever made by a defensive guy. It could be Derek Johnson, who, patented this like crazy punch thing. I guess we give it to Peanut Tillman for creating the punch, but Derek Johnson perfected that thing before he left Texas. But I know every time he created one, Cody, the other team's fans thought, sloppy football. That's all that is. Just sloppiness. So yeah, that's one of those things that I'd love to have. I don't know. It's almost like, it's not even like missing free throws in basketball. That's going to happen. But what does a running back coach tell me about fumbling? Does he even let me say the word without like punching me in the face? Or, you know what I mean? Like, how do the psychology of that is fascinating to me. Once it starts, and to your point earlier, Cody, we're talking about these 17 and 18-year-old studs that turn into 18 and 19 and 20-year-old studs in college. They fumbled once. Maybe they fumbled twice. Social media wants to crush them. Like, what do you do as a coach? I would love to hear, not only Tashard Choice, but I'd love to hear like Chad Scott's thoughts on it. Like, what the hell do you do when that starts to happen?
The ball is the program. The team is the program. If you drop the ball, you're off the I'm just kidding. You're not off the program. But no, you got to, I think Sark said it well. I think this year when Jaden Blue dealt with it, he said, you walk around the campus with the ball. What movie was that from when they walked around campus with the ball? I don't remember.
The program.
The program.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think that's you do with what you can. Like it's not worth going into practice and go, hey guys, today we're not going to fumble. We're going to try this drill to not fumble. It's just like natural running back. You have your there's a gauntlet machine. I can't think of the word for it. But it's got all like the battering rams and you run through it and you're protecting the football high and tight, all these different things that you work on. You have the football with the strap on it. You have the guy behind you pulling and tugging on it. You have guys beating on it. Like you do those things naturally. So it's not like you can train to not fumble more than you already trained to protect the football. The theory of not saying it's kind of funny. But I would just say the ball's the program is the team. And if you fumble, you're off the team. That's what I had. That would be my psychology as a coach.
I just remember, like, of all the basketball coaches I've ever dealt with, men's basketball, women's basketball, they hate missed free throw questions. They hate it. It's just like they don't know, because it's like you don't know how to deal with it. And it's almost like, do we say it out loud? Do we not say it?
Is it more like, would you compare a fumble to a missed free throw though? Or was like
I said earlier, you got to know that a missed free throw is going to happen every once in a while. A fumble is inexcusable. A fumble is something that you do not assume is ever happening.
That's like giving up a steal or getting a shot blocked. Getting a shot blocked. How about that? Getting a shot blocked is like you can, unless it's like, you're playing against Yao Ming or Wembanyama or, Shaq or something, but like you can pretty much keep away from getting a shot blocked.
Yeah.
If you're smart.
Yeah, maybe that's the comp. Maybe that's the comp. But I always had that sense of they really don't want to talk about these missed free throws because you just don't know. You don't. The psychology of it's so crazy. Hopefully, the Longhorns will have all kinds of good ball security moving forward. My favorite story is still Tiki Barber from the Giants years when Tom Coughlin got on him about it, and then the next year and the rest of his career was all this stuff. All the high and tight. He'd be in a full sprint with the ball way up in here, but all the points of contact and everything. And he stopped fumbling that ball pretty quickly when they got on him. So
I remember Tiki was like always like way up here. That's all I remember.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he got it. Yeah. He had some fumbling issues, and man, it was way up there. I always wondered how he could run full speed with the ball, with it way up there, but he did it. This did also happen in the interview today. We didn't mention it, but thank you, Cruz, for throwing it in. So Sark confirms Arch as 2025 starter and no spring game in an interview. Is it official in writing? I guess both of those things you could say are official, Cruz. As we put on the crawl at the bottom, no spring game. It is funny that he declared Arch the starter. That's certainly not a
You don't think Trey Owens is going to get a fair shake this spring in the OTA?
I think he is going to get the fairest shake a backup ever got. That's what he's going to get. The Trey Owens situation, it's not the worst situation to be in to me, because you're not going to have people walking in, calling your name. You're not going to have people thinking, Owens is better. That's not going to happen. Texas fans are going to give Arch so much leash, so much rope to learn and grow, and he's their guy. If anybody's to blame, it's Sark. It's not going to be Arch. So Owens gets to be in the comfortable side of that, Cody, where do your work, just duck, stay under the radar. I mean, think about it. If Arch Manning goes to get a sandwich, wherever that's going to be, Trey Owens could take a four-wheeler naked, drive to Town Lake, jump in on fire with fireworks. And all that you would hear is, Arch Manning went and had a sandwich. Like, Trey Owens gets amazing cover this year. Just get better. I mean, I don't think it's a bad position overall for Trey Owens as the backup.
Usually, a long leash. I think that's an interesting thought. I think that the long leash thing is interesting because it's like, people are going to be understanding of him taking a little bit to get going.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to put words out there. But what if it takes him a little bit to get going? I think people also expect us to be a national championship team in 2025. So it's like you can only, you only get as much rope as it needs you only can. What's the word? You only need as much rope as it takes to hang yourself with. Like
right.
if you are, throw a 3 interception game against Ohio State, you don't think the next week people are going to be,
I don't.
3 interceptions off the rip against Ohio State. You lose by 12, 15 points, bounce back. Obviously you have your non-con games. You get back into conference play, it's 2 interception game.
If the only way it becomes a thing is if it's glaring, there's no other way to explain it, his mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, they're awful. Like
it's forced throw after forced throw after forced throw.
Horrible reads, right? Double coverage, triple coverage, one option routes, and he screws it up over and over and over again. And I just don't see that happening. But
do you think there's a sense of Vince feel to fan expectation of Arch where they expect to not just win games, but to dismantle teams?
Yeah.
And that part of maybe they don't dismantle teams because they're not playing in the Big 12 against Kansas where they can win 70-3, but they're in the SEC every week playing against, tougher opponents like Florida and Kentucky, where you may win games by 7 and 10, but it's not dismantling. So they're underwhelmed by Arch.
Well, I think it's a great point. That's why what I'm fascinated by right now is what happens if they beat Ohio State. And
because of the setup because of the games that follow,
And what I keep thinking of is if they beat Ohio State, what will the vibe be when we get to that quarter pole, if you will, in Gainesville? That start of October where they're not at home at all, but they get that high-profile game to start the month. And then after that, the next high-profile game, you would say, if you're going to be honest, is Georgia. And that's not till November 15th. So there'd be even more time of building the expectation, building the excitement. But to your point, I do think I've made the comment. I think there's a Vince quality, a Ricky quality, maybe throw Colt in there. I love it when fans feel this way about somebody. And I think that's what we're going to see with Texas fans and Arch. He's their guy no matter what. He's their guy. And if somebody's at fault, he plays offensive line, he plays receiver, or he coaches the team and calls plays. And that's the way even if they don't know that's how they think, I think that's going to be the mindset. And they're going to give 16 the benefit of the doubt for a while. And obviously, look, like you said, look, if it's 35-0 at half, against Ohio State, maybe that's a different story. But I don't see that type of thing happening. I think they're going to, if they see any mistakes, I think they're going to find other folks to kind of blame it on. And because he's their guy. And it's a rare thing as a fan that he's my guy. And that's it, and it's like by the end of 2012, the way Aggie fans felt about Manziel, the way Baylor fans felt about RG3, the way Florida fans felt about Tebow. My God. Hey, y'all could lose. Yeah, we could. He's our guy. He threw a pick. I don't care. He fumbled. I don't care. He lost to Ole Miss. I don't care. He's our guy, right? I think that's what it's going to be with Arch. Just over and over and over again of, here we go. And by the way, Big Cheddar knew exactly what I was avoiding in a way. Chad, Sooner fans won't appreciate that comment about the schedule. But they know that game had a certain feel last year where it was kind of down the list because Georgia was right near it. This year, it's the other cocktail party team. But if Texas gets out of Gainesville, y'all know what what Dallas is going to feel like.
Yeah,
you know it. Y'all are going to expect a parade route. You're not going to expect a late fourth. Think about it. Quinn just got done beating that crew. What, like 80-something to 3? You think there's no way you're going to tell me, well, Chad, Arch might beat him 14-10. Come on now. Come on, man. Y'all aren't going to be looking for Peter Gardere numbers in terms of that final score. Late 80s, those kind of wars. No, man. Y'all are going to look for a blowout against Oklahoma. So Big Cheddar, I understand it, but a Sooner fan's got to be realistic. Sooner fans got to be real to themselves. By the way, by the time that game happens, what did I see? Oklahoma's got, how about this, Cody? How about Auburn at Oklahoma on September 20th? That's a real thing.
Give me Auburn. Jackson Arnold going back. Give me Auburn.
Exactly. That happens on September 20th.
That's a good game.
You know who Oklahoma hosts on September 6th? That'd be Michigan. What does that game look like? By the end,
I think Michigan dunks them.
I do too. I think Michigan's going to go beat them. Oklahoma could have 2 losses by the time they get to Dallas to face Texas. And all those Sooner fans, Big Cheddar, they're just going to be trying to figure it out. They're not going to be mad that we're, talking down to them. But it is going to be, that'll be a terrific example if Texas handles their business of a rival game that, boy, do you need to be paying attention. If Texas has beaten Ohio State, and let's say they beat Florida, oh, good grief. You got 2 of the 3 roadies out of your way, and you've beaten them, and you've won, and you're undefeated, and all the energy, and you just came out of September where you were just on non-conference teams, and now you're going to Dallas, and you're going to get favored by what, 17? 12 at least? Whew, that's one of those where all about focus, all about staying focused for Texas. Good stuff on the chat today. Want to thank y'all. Let's see. Oh, Matt's throwing out a situation. Let's see what it is. If Arch comes out and throws at least 2 passing and 1 rushing touchdown against Ohio, hype will be at an all-time high. Matt, they could beat him 12-11 and hype will be at an all-time high. But you're right about that. If he rushes for 1 and throws for 2, duck. Look out.
What if so I was going to ask this a second ago, what if they do dunk Ohio State and they win by 16 in the,
Jeez.
in Columbus? Odds right now for the national championship are plus 600 Ohio State, plus 650 Texas and Oregon,
right?
Plus 700 Georgia. Those odds are going to change between now and the season, but is that like a statement? Texas is here. Texas is going to run this thing, and those odds shift to like plus 200 Texas. Everybody else is plus 800. You think?
Yes, especially if you're talking about if it's a little bit of a dump trucking. Oh yeah, if they beat Ohio State bad at their place,
equally as bad as Michigan last year. How about that?
Yeah, because I was going to say, you remember that feeling, don't you? That feeling coming out of that game was like, oh. And remember, at that moment, Ohio State really hadn't shown us what they showed us at the end of the year, where it's like when they really click everything, you felt like they maybe couldn't be stopped. When Texas beat Michigan by 19 like that, and especially the way Quinn played, remember, that's before the injury. That's a healthy Quinn Ewers, or as healthy as Quinn Ewers can be. If that dude could have stayed in a, hyperbaric chamber the rest of the year and kept throwing like that, you just had the feeling that Texas was going to be super dangerous. Here's the other little detail, Cody, and I'm going to put a post out on Orange Bloods by the end of the week to kind of look at some of this about if Texas beats Ohio State. But consider this. If they do, obviously that gives Ohio State a loss. By the time Texas plays Florida, Alabama or Georgia will be guaranteed to have a loss because they play each other on September the 27th. So the other thing I've taken a look at are some of those other games that'll happen from the start to when Texas plays Florida. Oh my God. I mean, when you start looking at who's got a tough game outside of that and who could lose, teams like LSU and Georgia and Bama, and I mentioned OU. I took a look at the rivals too. OU and A&M have a couple games. Man, Texas could be riding about as high as you can be riding when they hit October 4th. It could be out of control. Just hang on tight if you're a fan.
What if somebody told you, imagine you're a Sooner fan. I mean, you're an Aggie, so it's not that far off, but imagine you're a Sooner.
How dare you? How dare you?
Imagine you're a Sooner, all right?
Imagine
you hire Venables and someone goes, in 3 years, Texas Tech and SMU are going to feel like a better place to be with much more national juice and national recognition than we are.
Jeez.
Because they do. SMU, like everybody knows, SMU's got dough now, and they're in the ACC, made the ACC championship, made the playoff. Texas Tech coming off of a $10 million shopping spree in the portal.
Mm-hmm.
And
both of them dealing with a conference that's so much more livable.
Yes. And they just, their donor just sold his thing for his oil company for $4 billion. So that seems like that money's just going to keep on flowing. Big 12, SMU, ACC, like you said, and Oklahoma's like looking way up in every sport right now.
Yeah.
Every sport. And you're like, gosh.
Yeah, except I guess they're still not looking way up. They still have a good softball team, right?
Softball,
still have softball,
like basketball, football, baseball. I mean, did you see the attendance numbers for baseball?
No, for OU.
Oh Lord, it was like in the hundreds.
Oh no,
everybody else was maybe it was basketball. I think it might have been basketball actually. Oklahoma was in the 800s. Everybody else was like in the almost double-digit thousands.
Oh my God, 800 at Lloyd Noble. That explains. I saw a little clip from SEC Network where is it Dari Noken was going off because I realized Dari was an OU guy, but apparently he's a grad, and because if you know Dari, he is so professional. Like that dude is a pro. I never knew what his school was, but he kind of went off a little bit when he saw what you're talking about, where it says attendance and it's 3 digits. For an Oklahoma basketball game, that's pathetic. Yeah, that's sad. I did not realize the fan base, Cody, had turned to that degree in all, in multiple sports.
Yeah.
That's
not
crazy.
it's not good. And they're like asking fans for money and stuff. It's not good.
Not good at all. Matt throws in a little Texas and Florida could be a massive game. No kidding, Matt. It is going to be something else.
I think I put an asterisk there and put will be instead of could.
Yeah. But I'll give you another little piece of info, Cody. Guess who Florida plays before they play Texas?
Miami.
That is correct.
And they have one more.
They play Miami at Miami, but the week before that.
Is it SEC play? They have an SEC game, right?
Yep.
So it's going to be Tennessee or Ole Miss.
They go to LSU.
Oh, balls.
They play LSU and Miami back-to-back on the road, then a bye week, then Texas.
Oh,
so
that bye week's coldtub.com.
Again, it's not just about if Texas beats Ohio State. It's if Texas beats Ohio State and then a couple other things fall, Texas is not only riding high, wow, Texas is really getting everybody's attention, and there could be other couple big names that have fallen just a little bit with maybe a loss or two. So something to keep in mind. Matt, thank you for that comment. I do have a little buy or sell for Cody before we get to it. Let's give Texas Card House their love. You see Texas Card House every single day as our sponsor here on House Divided. They've also got online poker. Might be the best kind of poker when it's this damn cold outside. Hijackpoker.com is the place. And now that we've told you that there is no spring game, there we go. Let's get you the full graphic. Hijackpoker.com. You can put that app on any device you want, and you can deposit and cash out at any one of those 6 Texas Card House locations. Thanks to them for being a great partner of ours. We'll throw the deal back up for you as we get ready to wrap up. Yes, no spring game for Texas. It is official. Sark made that official. We've been talking about it and leaning towards it. So now Texas, USC, of the biggest names we could think of, Texas and USC are not going to have a spring game. Georgia, Bama, Ohio State of some kind, and Oregon are all going to have something. Oklahoma's going to have something. Was unable to find if A&M is going to actually have a spring game today. So we'll keep our eyes peeled for that. All right. Cody, are you ready for a little buy or sell today?
I'm ready.
All righty. Threw a little combine in there for you as well, because I know you're headed there. Wanted to make you feel comfortable, but I also have a little trivia in there for you. But we're going to start with this running backs coach story. Buy or sell number 1, Texas rushing in 2025 back to 5 yards a carry or better.
Buy. I think that the running game overall just be better. I think your offense helps with that. I think we saw last year a lot of the conversation entering the season was how bad the DBs were, how bad the stats were when it comes to the defensive backfield and allowing yards and allowing points and allowing this and allowing that. And I think what goes into that is not being able to run the football against Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat. And now coming into this year, it's like, well, can they get back to the rushing? Well, I think part of that also is having no disrespect to the passing game, we'll just say an explosive passing game. You have an explosive passing game. It kind of pulls those linebackers and DBs out of the box, which inherently obviously helps the running game. So I'll go buy.
Sark's time at Texas, 5.2, 5.2, 5 flat, and then it went down to 4.3. Chad Scott going to try to help it get back to 5 a carry. All right, Cody, let's go to the combine. Buy or sell number 2. You think Quinn will be the 3rd quarterback drafted?
Sell.
Who do you like?
I'll put Dart in there at QB3.
Okay.
And then I think we'll wait. I think we may see McCord go, and then probably Milroe go. So I think Quinn's 6th today.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Here comes the trivia part, and you'll, I'm sure, make me feel old, but I set it up. Buy or sell number 3. Charles Barkley is 62 today. You never saw him play a second live, but you can tell me his college and 2 of the 3 NBA teams he played for.
Never saw him play live.
Okay.
Auburn.
Correct.
Phoenix.
Correct.
And the Rockets.
Well done. Well done. Look at that. You didn't even need the 76ers. That was well done. Well done. Yeah. Phoenix, and I woke up today only thinking about two of them, and I'd forgotten about the Rockets time. Sorry, Houston fans. My bad. By the way, I have also recently watched the We Beat the Dream Team documentary, the story of the select college team that went to the, Olympic prep and won the famous scrimmage against the Dream Team. It's a pretty good documentary, like an hour 20. They get everybody from Grant Hill to Jordan to Bird to whoever to talk about it. And there is some controversy now about that game of whether it was legit or not. So go check it out. It's very good.
Where's it at?
In it as well. It's an HBO, I think.
HBO, okay.
I believe it is an HBO documentary.
That sounds really good. That sounds good.
Called We Beat the Dream Team. They sit them all down. Grant Hill and Allen Houston and Chris Webber and that crew. It's a cool little story and a cool reminder of what happened there in 92. Happy birthday to Charles Barkley today. Back to the combine. Cody, buy or sell number 4. Daniel Jeremiah says 3 horns in the first round. You agree?
I agree right now. That's what I have in my latest mock. But like I said before, I think that the number you could probably set for Texas would be 3.5. Because I think that there's people out there that still have thoughts of Cam Williams. I don't think he gets there. I think that ship has sailed. And then I think the Bond thing has merit with speed. And I also think Quinn Ewers, you asked the question, QB3? I don't think so. But I think if one team falls in love with him, it wouldn't be out of pocket for the Rams to potentially trade up with the 32nd or 31st pick and take him. So it wouldn't shock me, but I'm going to go agree. I also have the same 3 guys, Banks, Barron, and Matthew Golden.
There you go. Yeah. And I do wonder what our outsider Chance Mock is thinking as a Bills fan. Does he want that Matthew Golden pick? I'd like that. If I was a Bills fan, kind of like that plan. Best of luck to all the Longhorns, 14 of them. Headed to Indy. And again, Alex and Cody are going to have all kinds of great coverage from Indy next week, Tuesday through Friday with shows. Tomorrow, their Friday Football with Friends show. They'll get you ready for the combine. No Football with Friends this evening because they're getting some things ready to head to Indy. Finally, Cody, it is also one where I might feel old, but then again, I'm doing it to myself. Buy or sell number 5. Cindy Crawford and Rihanna share a birthday today. Prime on prime, Rihanna hotter than Cindy Crawford. Please tell me I don't need to tell you who Cindy Crawford is.
This is Cindy Crawford. This is a layup. I love me some Rihanna. Don't get me wrong. Rihanna's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
No.
You're selling and you're going Cindy Crawford.
Selling. Give me Cindy Crawford. Okay. 10 times out of 10.
I was trying to be nice to the youngster there, but with all due respect, I agree with you here. With all due respect to Rihanna, and I wonder if men and women look at this thing equally, but I don't care whether it's men or women discussion. If the person was a professional pretty person, that's tough to beat.
Yeah.
Like if you got paid to be, theoretically, Rihanna could still be Rihanna and not look like Rihanna. Cindy Crawford was like, what? World-class model.
That means right? Go look at the whole music industry. Like they're not all
right.
They're not all beautiful.
They're not. No, they're not.
But I will say everybody on the other side in Cindy Crawford streets, they're all pretty beautiful.
Also, Cody, I'm going to do you a favor in case you have not seen it either ever or lately. Are you familiar with the George Michael video for Freedom 90?
George Michael, I don't think so.
I can tell by your face you're not. I'm doing you a favor here. George Michael made one of the greatest videos ever when he took 5 legendary supermodels that had been on a Vogue cover. Cindy's one of them. Yeah. And he put them in a video where all they're doing is being sexy and mouthing the words to his song.
Okay.
It's awesome. You're welcome in advance. I rewatched it the other day for the first time in, I don't know, maybe a quarter century. It may be that long, or I guess whatever, do your math from 1990-ish, but it's incredible. And shout out to Cindy and Rihanna today. Both have birthdays going on. So there you go. There's a little buy or sell for you on this day. Also, musically, Kurt Cobain would have had a birthday today if you're a Nirvana fan, and he would have been 58. Can you imagine Kurt Cobain singing "Smells Like Teen Spirit" at 58?
Dude, That Post Malone performance with Nirvana, what they call it, Post Nirvana, that was ridiculous.
I still have not seen it, but I heard it was great.
Are you kidding me?
I haven't seen it yet.
There's
Cody, there's talk of him touring with them. Somebody said that they should think about it.
Must.
Really?
Dude, what's the drummer's name? It's
the drummer is Dave Grohl, right? I'm assuming Dave was on drums.
Yeah. He's got to be what, 60?
I mean, if Kurt Cobain was 58, he's right in that range. He's 56. Probably right around 60. Yeah.
Hammer.
Was he?
Hammer. That ridiculous.
Dave's a terrific. Dave's such a good musician all the way around. With what happened, obviously with Foo Fighters, but to watch him play the drums is a fantastic experience. So that's cool, man. Especially if the fans would get into it and make it a tribute and make it feel right. And if Dave and I'm assuming Chris Novoselic was part of it too. Like if they want to do it, like that would be kind of cool. Also, this didn't make me feel old at all. Olivia Rodrigo is 22. That means she was born before I got married. I'm just going to leave that there. All right. So Cody, do you have anything else for the good people today on a Thursday?
I got some buy or sells for Chad.
Oh, you do? Okay. Well, let's go. Let's do it.
All right. We'll start here with A&M because I'm going through the combine stuff right now. I got to ask the resident Aggie to pick one in whatever facet you want. You got to pick one to come back and play for Texas A&M. You get to pick one to draft for your favorite team. Pick one of these defensive linemen: Shamar Stewart, Shamar Turner, or Nick Scorton.
Okay. And you're saying
who are you rolling with?
I can pick them for any particular reason I want.
Yeah.
Right. And correct. Okay. Let me make sure. I always mix up the Shamars. Shamar Stewart's the end. Turner is the interior, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Turner's the one that's a little bit of a maniac too. He worries me. He concerns me in terms of that. I'm going to say.
Is he as bad as McKinley Jackson from that perspective?
There's a little more football and a little less crazy sometimes with those two. Actually, sometimes it feels like there's a little more crazy and more football. So it's like the ceiling is higher and the floor is slightly higher, but there are times where it's just such a knucklehead. I thought he was going to cost him the LSU game for a section of that game. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you picking fights all over this field? So my gut would be, man, I'll take Shamar Stewart either to go be a badass on an NFL team I love, or please come back to College Station for one more year. I really enjoyed Scorton as well, but I think Shamar Stewart, especially if he could come back to A&M, another year of development and stuff, I think it'd be extra freaky. So I'll go with Stewart.
One question part of that, why everybody's like, if he had any type of like box score, as far as like if he had 6 sacks, it'd go miles in people understanding who he is. But having 1.5 sacks each of the last 2 seasons, people are just like,
yeah,
all right, he dominates the Senior Bowl. He's kind of a Tasmanian devil. He's going to test well. Why? What happened? And it's like,
no, it's a great question. And it's like, and especially now that A&M has gone all in on a defensive head coach, you expected to see a little more out of it. Like I expected for him to have more number. I mean, obviously the DN versus interior position anyway, but it ends up by the end of the season, you could argue Turner's kind of the bigger deal.
Yep.
Partially because he's a maniac, but also partially because he was a badass at times too. It's been the frustration, Cody, I think, of a lot of A&M fans watching that team over the last few years, just stacked up badasses on that defensive front. And you just don't get the sense that it just doesn't get maximized. Maybe that's the player. Maybe it's the scheme. I'll argue a couple years ago, they had speaking of maniacs, a maniac as the defensive coordinator that was calling some weird stuff. But this year was supposed to be defensive-minded head coach, get things done, and it didn't happen. So I don't know what Elko would tell us about why Stewart didn't have those numbers. But to your point, man, it's got to be better than that. Was it you said 1.5?
1.5 each of the last 2 years.
That's just, it's got to be better than that. It's got to be. So deep down, what I should have done with your buy or sell, I should have just bought Nick Scorton and left the Shamars alone. Because when you're looking for something you can depend on, maybe it's Scorton. Maybe ultimately Nick Scorton's the one thing you can depend on because the Shamars, for some reason, they just haven't had the productivity.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
All right, buy or sell. The Aggies would rather host a spring game at Kyle Field in April and get a guaranteed win at Texas in November.
Oh my God. Oh man, that is highly entertaining. Sell.
The ultimate ego stroke here.
Even the weirdest Aggie on the face of the earth will tell you that's a sell. Look, I appreciate it, Cody, because the people in the chat have probably been thinking to themselves, man, Chad really likes a spring game. I'd love to know just how much he likes a spring game. Let's see. I appreciate you throwing the test into the water, but that is a sell. That is a sell. Aggies would rather have a win in November in Austin.
All right, that's fair. Sticking with Aggies for one more.
Yes.
Manuel Iheanacho and Jackson Cantwell, the top two tackles in this 2026 cycle, have moved on from A&M as far as their top six goes. Currently have the number 2 class in America at the moment. Per my column behind the enemy lines the other day, the attention, according to Aggie Yell, has shifted towards Turntine, John Turntine, and Zayden Krempin. Yeah. Buy or sell, John Turntine will be an Aggie.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's say buy. I'll say Ojo ends up as a Longhorn. Turntine ends up as an Aggie. Just feels like kind of an Aggie O-lineman name, doesn't it? John Turntine. It's old John Turntine, but hopefully it's not little John Turntine from the discussion earlier. I'll say Turntine as an Aggie makes some sense. Yeah, let's do it.
Little John Turntine. That's where it is. All right, 2 more. Sark was telling the truth today when he told Kay Adams that he told his dad when he started coaching in 2000, when his dad asked him what's the best job in the sport, the Texas head coaching job is the best job in the sport. Buy or sell, that he was telling the truth there. Telling the truth in the aspect that he actually said that to his dad 25 years ago.
Yeah. In 2000.
And he's not just filling the fan base full of piss and vinegar.
Man, that's great, because I could make that argument both ways. Talking about a California guy by 2000. I'm trying to think. Was he already at USC by 2000?
No, that was his legitimately. He said in the interview today, when I decided to quit playing and start coaching. So 2000, he was in what the hell was the JUCO or the high school he was at? Whatever. It was that first year. He said the first year, my dad asked me, what's the best job in the sport? And I said, it's the Texas head coaching job.
Yeah, I'm going to buy it because he didn't go to a blue blood. He hadn't gotten to the blue blood that he was going to end up at as a coach. Like if he was in the middle of his USC run and he tried to tell me that later, I don't know if I'd buy that. Because if I was in the middle of the Pete Carroll thing, winning national titles and Bush and Leinart and the whole thing, it's like, come on, man, you're not going to tell somebody that there's a better job out there, are you? You're watching this all happen. But yeah, I'll buy it. He had the right amount of distance, and he also had the right amount of foresight to see it. If you know college football and everything that's a part of it, you have to always be thinking about Texas on some level, and it's a huge compliment, obviously. But yeah, I'll take it. I'll take him at his word. I don't know why you'd make up a story like that about lying to your dad. So I'm going to say it was the truth from 25 years ago.
I thought it was interesting because I was like, that sounds potential, but
yeah,
we'll see. All right, last one, hotter than.
Yes.
Samantha Ponder, who recently moved to Texas. She relocated in August 2024 before she departed ESPN, is hotter than Kay Adams, who is the newest Austin visitor, who said she's the first time she's been in Austin in 10 years.
Whoa.
She was interviewing Sark today. Sam Ponder, hotter than Kay Adams.
It's a hell of a matchup. Somebody in our chat said that if Kay Adams visits more often, they will get accused of stalking. They may get arrested because they're a big fan. May want to get that looked at. You know what? I will sometimes it's that newer face that people might go with. And Kay Adams is so impressive, but I'm going to stay old school and I'm going to be the older guy here. I'm going to go with Sam. She's been doing great work for so long and she's just beautiful. I've enjoyed her stuff. When we first started talking to her, Ketch and I started having her on the show way back in the day when she was Sam Steele. She was so nice to us and gracious to come on the show. And she's a total pro, and she's just got one of those faces that doesn't seem to want to deteriorate. Like, she's just got a face that stays so consistent for me. Every time I see her on TV, I'm like, damn, Sam, you look incredible. And the TV will not lie to you. The TV will give you that truth over time. But I think she still looks amazing. So I'm going to go with Sam Ponder. I'm going to speak up for the experienced crowd, and I'm going to say Sam Ponder on that one. What would you do?
I go Ponder.
You go Ponder?
Yeah.
Okay. Ponder. Yeah. She's so pretty. Oh my God. Just that effortless pretty. That's one of those, Sam Ponder's one of those that I figure, like, she's just got done walking the dog, and she's like wearing a cap and the hair's pulled back, and she's got to go like dig something out of the garden. And then she's taking the trash out, and you see her like right after she takes the trash out, and you walk by the house and she waves at you, and you think, God, she's amazing looking. Look at that woman. Like, I don't think it ever goes wrong for Sam. I'm sure Sam would say, Chad, you're insane. I look ugly all the time. But Sam, we love you. And we hope you are enjoying Austin. And she was, look at this. Big Cheddar remembers back in the day. Sam Steele was an anchor on LHN right at the beginning, right when things launched. Sam Ponder and Sam Steele at the time. Yep. And my man Kevin Dunn and all the folks that got LHN started. No LHN anymore. First baseball season without LHN. Get ESPN Plus. If I haven't mentioned that today, you got to have it. Let me see. There was, I don't know if I marked this or did you mark this of S. Roan? So I want to see how much Cam Williams weighs at the combine. Is this a big detail for you going in?
This was, so you remember a couple years ago, he was looked at as like a 355, 360. He was listed 335 this past year on the depth chart or the roster. And the report we got out of the Senior Bowl from a source was that he showed up to combine training at Little John Turntine, Little Cam Williams, 312.
Oh,
so okay. We'll see. I imagine he probably gained a little bit of weight back, but he was recovering from a knee scope. So Esron, I'm also interested to see what he weighs because of what we heard just about a month ago.
Interesting. Okay. All right. I'm glad we brought that up then. So what's the number you want to see and what's the number that would worry you?
Honestly, doesn't really matter. If he's overweight, if he's back up into like 340s, I'll be worried.
That's a concern.
Okay. I'll be concerned. But I mean, as far as like his body and stuff, like his measurables are fine. The problem isn't really his size or his shape or his weight. It's more of the tape toward the latter of the season. So weight, I hope he's north of 315. I hope he's not like 308. Like we trying to start running cross country or something? But
right. I got you. S. Roan, thank you for that one. All right. Matt's got a couple weird super chats to finish us off today. $5 super chat. Buy or sell. You'd rather fight 2 black bears versus 1 silverback gorilla.
Yeah,
I gotta buy that.
Yeah. I take the bears.
I know it's 2 of them, Matt, but come on now. A silverback gorilla without you telling me anything else. Because I know what that means in terms of like just the science of it, the sort of evolutionary aspect of it. And I know those 2 black bears might be badass, but they're not genetically as close to us as what that silverback gorilla is. Come on now. I would just tell you, go visit a zoo and go to both places and you tell me what the answer is. Look at how the bears look at you and look at how the gorilla looks at you. I think the answer is simple. Now I'd die. I think I'd die either way, but maybe I got a shot with 2 black bears. I might get 1 black bear to get pissed at the other and they attack each other. Cody, that gorilla is going to paint the walls with me.
Yeah, that's pretty much the best way to say it. He's going to paint the walls with you. Like
right.
the black bears, if it was a grizzly bear, I think I made 2 grizzly bears.
Yeah, 2 grizzlies would have been a different discussion. 2 grizzlies or 2 Kodiaks or when you're getting into that area of bears, but 2 black bears.
I'll take I'll take my chance.
Yeah. Because the randomizer might bring me 2 black bear cubs. Who knows? They're 2 black bears, just like the silverback gorilla could be young too, but still, I don't want to mess with a young silverback.
Your head, you might still be alert as your limbs are being ripped off in that situation.
Yes. I might be aware of what he's painting on the wall at that exact moment as he's using my arm to write his name on the rock. All right. Happier thought on the way out from Matt, a $2 super chat. Prime on Prime. Jane Fonda hotter than Cindy Crawford. Matt, let's not get silly. It's a sell. Cindy Crawford for me.
Yeah.
I love Jane Fonda.
No,
love Jane Fonda. And there's been some fine Jane Fondas over the years. Come on now. Jane Fonda would tell you that's silly.
No dice. Give me Cindy
Crawford. Cindy Crawford. Yeah, that's a sell. It's a sell. Happy birthday to Cindy. Cindy and Rihanna sharing a birthday today. All right. Here we go. I think we're done. Cody, you got anything else today?
That's all I got, man. We're preparing for the combine next week. Tuesday to Friday, Football with Friends will be tapped in over there. So looking forward to covering every single day some Texas Longhorns. They'll be on the podium. Every day there'll be guys on the podium. Every day of the week, next week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, there'll be guys testing and Sunday. So you can watch that stuff over on the NFL Network. But I guess it'll be the send-off for most Texas Longhorn fans to their players. It'll be the last time you see them before they get drafted.
Yeah, it's always a cool thing, man, as a fan, especially with 14 of them. Only Ohio State has more. Is that right? There's 15 Buckeyes?
Yeah.
It's incredible stuff. You're a Texas fan. It's what you want. You want to have that kind of season. Obviously, you wanted it to finish a little differently, but be in the discussion for a national title and then send the number of guys to the combine that's right on, almost at the top. Like that's big time stuff. That's how you know you're one of the big dog programs. We'll see how those guys do. All the best. Best of luck to those guys. Again, Football with Friends, not tonight, but you got a Friday edition. And then like Cody said, Tuesday through Friday there. Anwar's got an old fashioned for you tomorrow at 9. And hopefully Ketch will be back with us tomorrow at noon. He had some family things to take care of today. Hopefully he will be back tomorrow. Thank you to Cody Carpentier for jumping in. Cody, I appreciate you. Always good to talk with you. And we ended up with a couple things to talk about today. Running backs, coaches, and spring games and all that. I will recover, Texas fans. I want you to know I will process this and try to get through life without a spring game with Arch Manning. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. All of you have to deal with the same thing too. Y'all deal with that and the cold weather. We'll be back tomorrow at noon. Take care. If you didn't like on the way in, like on the way out. Like, subscribe, get your notifications. It does help us out because I don't want to get a real job. Y'all have a good one. We'll be back tomorrow here on Orange Bloods